There are games you should never play, and there are lines you must never cross. Some people are driven by a timeless, powerful impulse to peek behind the curtain, to see what's on the other side. We tell ghost stories, we invent rituals, all just to test the boundaries of our own reality, all in the desperate hope of getting an answer. But what happens when something actually answers back? Tonight we look at two stories where that question was answered. One, a childish prank between two sisters that accidentally started a global religion before it consumed and destroyed them. The other, a modern ritual born on the internet that promises a trip to another dimension and became terrifyingly linked to one of the most unsettling, mysterious deaths of the 21st century. The Fox Sisters, the prank that became a prison. Our first case takes us back to the dead of winter, 1848. In a small, drafty farmhouse in Hydesville, New York, the Fox family was being tormented with faint rappings in the night. The parents, John and Margaret, brushed it off as the groans of an old house. But for their two youngest daughters, 14-year-old Maggie and 11-year-old Kate, it was something more. The sounds grew louder, more intentional. Then came the cold, invisible touch in the dark, the blankets pulled from their beds by a force they could not see. Everything changed on the night of March 31st. Fed up and terrified, little Kate challenged the darkness. She called out, "Mr. Splitfoot, do as I do," and clapped her hands. From the shadows, the exact number of claps echoed back. Her sister Maggie joined in, asking the presence to rap out their ages. It complied perfectly. In that moment, they created a crude language, one rap for no, two for yes, and a code to spell out words. Using this system, the spirit began to tell its story. It claimed to be a peddler who'd been murdered in that very house years before, his body buried in the cellar. The story was explosive. Neighbors flocked to the Fox cottage to witness the miracle, to ask their own questions of the spirit. It wasn't long before the girl's older sister, Leah, arrived. Seeing a golden opportunity, she took charge, becoming the sisters' manager and promoter. What started in a dark farmhouse became a public spectacle. Under Leah's sharp guidance, the sisters moved to Rochester and began holding formal seances for paying customers. The phenomena became more dramatic. Tables levitated, objects flew across the room, and ghostly lights would manifest in the darkness. They became international celebrities, convincing prominent figures like newspaper editor Horace Greeley and author James Fenimore Cooper. They offered something a society ravaged by war and disease desperately craved, proof that their dead loved ones were not truly gone. The Fox Sisters didn't just perform a ritual, they gave birth to a new religion, spiritualism, which swept across America and Europe. But behind the curtain, the lie was taking its toll. The sisters were subjected to endless tests by skeptics, sometimes tied up to ensure they couldn't be making the sounds themselves. The pressure was crushing. Maggie fell in love with an explorer, Elisha Kent Kane, who loathed her work. After he died, heartbroken and broke, Maggie had no choice but to return to the life she hated. Both she and Kate spiraled into severe alcoholism. The breaking point came in 1888. Riddled with guilt and locked in a bitter feud with Leah, Maggie decided to confess everything. For a $1,500 fee from a newspaper, she rented out the New York Academy of Music. In front of a massive crowd, she took off her shoe, placed her bare foot on a small wooden stool, and produced the exact same spirit raps that had mystified the world for 4 decades. It was the sound of her cracking her big toe joint. It had all been a hoax, a prank on their mother that had spun so far out of control, it had become a monster. Maggie told the stunned audience, "I have seen so much miserable deception. That is why I am willing to state that spiritualism is a fraud of the worst description." The fallout was immediate. The global movement they had created turned on them, denouncing them as drunks and frauds. Though Maggie later tried to take back her confession, desperate for money, it was too late. Their careers and their lives were over. Kate died from complications of alcoholism in 1892. Less than a year later, Maggie died alone and penniless in a tenement building. The game they invented had brought them fame and fortune, but it ended up being their tomb. The elevator game, the portal to hell. Now, we travel from the gaslit parlors of the 19th century to the cold, digital ether of the 21st, where rituals are born on anonymous forums. This one is an urban legend known as the elevator game. Its origins trace back to Korean and Japanese websites around the early 2010s. The instructions spread like a virus through creepypasta sites, presenting a methodical, dangerous ritual for accessing another world. The rules are absolute. You must find a building at least 10 stories high. You must be alone. Inside the elevator, you press the buttons in a precise sequence. 4th floor, 2nd, 6th, 2nd, 10th, and finally, the 5th. You cannot get out. On the 5th floor, the ritual reaches its breaking point. The legend warns that when the doors slide open, a woman may get on. You are given one chillingly simple command. Do not look at her. Do not speak to her. She is not human. If you've done everything right, you press the button for the 1st floor. If the elevator goes down, the ritual has failed. Get out. Don't look back. Don't speak. But if the elevator, defying all mechanics and logic, begins to ascend toward the 10th floor, the ritual has succeeded. The doors will open, and you will find yourself on the 10th floor of a world that is not ours. Those who claim to have done it describe a place of near total silence and darkness. Your phone won't work. The only thing visible from the windows is a red cross glowing in the far distance. To get back, you have to use the same elevator, hoping the woman from the 5th floor didn't follow you. For years, it was just a great, scary story. But the game took on a terrifying new reality in 2013, with the tragic and bizarre death of a 21-year-old Canadian student named Elisa Lam. Lam vanished while staying at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, a place already infamous for its own dark history. The LAPD released the last known footage of her from a security camera in one of the hotel's elevators. The video is profoundly disturbing. Lam gets in the elevator and presses a whole panel of buttons. When the doors don't close, she starts acting strangely. She peeks out into the hallway, then jumps back into the corner of the elevator, as if she's hiding. She steps in and out, her hands moving in a way that looks like she's talking to someone just out of frame. Finally, she walks away. The elevator doors close, and she is never seen alive again. 19 days later, her body was found inside a sealed water tank on the hotel roof after guests complained about the hotel's water. The coroner ruled her death an accidental drowning, citing her bipolar disorder as a major factor. But for the millions who saw that video, That explanation never felt right. Online investigators immediately saw a disturbing connection between her actions and the steps of the elevator game. Was she pressing the buttons in that ritual sequence? Who was she hiding from? Did she successfully enter the other world, but fail to make it back? While there is no proof Elisa Lam was playing the game, her case is now forever bound to its myth, making it a terrifying example of a ritual with seemingly fatal consequences. The stories we tell ourselves in the dark have power. They are cautionary tales that blur the line between our reality, our psychology, and the things we cannot explain. If you feel drawn to explore more cases where that veil is lifted, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. What ties the story of two sisters in the 1800s to a modern internet horror story is the terrifying idea of a ritual gone wrong. For the Fox sisters, the ritual was a lie that grew into a monster they couldn't control, trapping them until it destroyed them. Theirs was a psychological terror, a slow, agonizing collapse under the weight of a deception that became their entire world. For those who dare to play the elevator game, the terror feels supernatural, but it's just as deeply rooted in psychology. The ritual is a masterclass in suggestion, preying on our deepest fears of being alone, of being trapped, of the stranger in the dark. The story of Elisa Lam serves as a horrifying anchor, grounding the game's abstract terror in a real-world tragedy that has never been fully explained. Both stories reveal a chilling truth. Whether the spirits are real or it's all just in our heads, the act of looking for them can have devastating consequences. It proves that the most terrifying monsters are often not the ones we summon from another world, but the ones that were already inside of us all along. And it leaves us with one final, lingering question. Are some doors better left unopened?